All right, so good morning, CUT. How are you? You guys good? And welcome. I love it whenever I have an opportunity to be with you. I'm glad you decided to come to church this morning. Welcome in the house. We are in a Family Matters series. And the purpose of the Family Matters series is to remind us that the family is important. It's the intention of this series that we'll be able to learn how to successfully navigate the issues that arise within the family dynamic. So as we work through this series, we'll be highlighting the family and agreeing that family matters. Is that right? And we'll also just take a look at some of the issues that present themselves within the family relationship dynamic, and we can see what principles, tools, and techniques we can apply in order to navigate those issues in ways that are healthy and fulfilling for all who are involved. Is that good? Now, as I said to you on last week, and as many of you already know, each of us is a threefold being. As threefold beings, we are what? As threefold beings, we are spirit, soul, and body. Spiritually, we are made in the image and after the likeness of God. Is that right? At the soul level, we are thinking and feeling beings. Is that right? And at the body level, the body is the vehicle of expression through which the spirit and the soul moves out into the world. Each one of these areas of our being must be fed, nurtured, developed, and supported if we are to live healthy, happy, and prosperous lives. See, it does us little good to be spiritually perfect when we can't get along with the people we are in relationship with. It does us no good to be prospered and abundant, and there's nobody we can spend the time with unless we pay them. Yeah? And so what we want to make sure that we are doing, we want to make sure that we are equipped to live fulfilled, sustainable lives because we are spirit, soul, and body. Yeah? As we move into these relationships, we see that the divine design, the way we are made, God has baked relationship into the divine design. As a matter of fact, we read in the book of Genesis in the second chapter, it says, God breathed into man and he became a living soul. And then it said, shortly thereafter, I saw that it was not good for him to be alone, and so I made him a helper, somebody who could partner with him. When you read in the scripture, help meet or partner, think family. Are you with me? And so we just recognize that we are each hardwired for relationships. There are 6 primary kinds of relationships wherein there ought to be the nurturing, the support, the feeding, and the development. Those 6 primary relationships, those 6 primary connections, you've heard me say it before, but bear with me because it's important that you get it. The first is the God connection. The first is the God connection. And the book of John tells us that we get the helper in the form of the comforter. Are you with me? The second connection is the relationship with ourselves. How many of you know you can't love anybody right if you don't love yourself well? The third connection is the mate connection. Whoever you are in a significant relationship with, your significant other, that person is your mate, and your mate has certain responsibilities in order to be in relationship with you. The fourth connection is the parent figure connection. And your parent might be, the parent figure might be your parent by biology. They might be the parent by the attraction of the soul. Are you with me? The third is the child figure connection. And your child figure might be your biological children. They might be the children on the block. All of these comprise our families. And then last but not least is the friend connection. Our friends are a part of our primary relationship. So that we're on the same page when we talk about family in this series, family breaks down into some very basic categories. The family breaks down first into the nuclear family. Those are our parents and our children. The second area of family is our immediate family. Those are our parents, our brothers and sisters, our husbands and wives, and our children. The third area is the biological family. It's those with whom we are related by blood. And this fourth area is a critical area of the family. I told you last week, you'll hear me say it again. This is the area that Ayanna Van Zant recommended that we make distinction on. She says, we are related to our family by blood, but we get to choose our relatives. The people we want to be or choose to be or decide to be in relationship with. All of these people make up our family. And so again, there's some people you're sitting to right here today who are more a part of your family than the people who are your family by blood. So before I go any further, I just want to do a quick exercise. Take your right finger, hold it up. Put it in your right ear. I want to make sure what's said from this point forward does not go in one ear and just want to make sure. I got some good stuff for you. You ready? You ready? You sure? So inside each and every one of us is a relational tank. According to Gary Chapman, he calls it an emotional tank. I call it a relational tank. He says inside each and every one of us is a relational tank. How many of you can tell when your relational tank is on empty? By show of hands. If you sit next to the person who has a responsibility to fill it up, don't raise your hand. But how many of you can tell? You can tell when your relational tank is on empty. You can tell? All right. So we each have a need to be loved. And the need to be loved must be met if we are to experience emotional health. Emotional health is facilitated when the people that we are in relationship with, that is God, ourselves, our significant others, our parents, our children, our friends, our family by decision, each of these people helps facilitate our emotional health when they help us secure and be secure in the sense that we are wanted, accepted, respected, and we are in relationship with someone who provides a home for our heart. See, some people will provide a home for your body, but they won't provide a home for your heart. Are you with me? And so in order to be emotionally healthy, it's necessary that the people we are in relationship with do their part to help fill our emotional or relational tank. There is nobody that you are in a primary relationship with who does not have a responsibility to be an active participant in the filling of your emotional tank. Conversely, there is nobody that you are in a relationship with that you don't have a responsibility to do your part in filling their emotional or relational tank. So if you're in a relationship and you only take and you don't give, you are not upholding your end of the responsibility. And it doesn't matter what your role is, you can be my child and still pour into me. If my puppy can do it, my son can do it. Are you with me? And so then we all have a responsibility to one another. But it's important to recognize that when it comes to family, it's important to remember that when it comes to relationships, the people that we are with are influenced by the environments they come from. And they see the world through the lens of the environments and the relationships that they've been a part of. Let me say it to you this way. If there's someone who has been in an excessively dysfunctional or abusive environment or came up in that environment, they are going to be inclined to have a certain worldview. Just like somebody who comes up in a highly functional family, in a highly functional environment, they're going to see the world a certain way. It reminds me of the story of these two twins who were raised in the same home. One twin was an alcoholic, the other twin was incredibly successful. And they did a study and an interview of these two twins, and they asked the twin who was an alcoholic, he said, why did your life turn out the way it turned out? He said, my life turned out the way it turned out because both of my parents were alcoholics. And living in that environment and being under the weight of that despair, it shaped how I was and who I was, and I couldn't help but turn out any other way. He said, I am the way I am because my parents were alcoholics. They interviewed the other twin. They said, how did you turn out the way that you turned out? He said, well, I turned out the way that I turned out because both of my parents were alcoholics. And he said, the environment that I grew up in, I determined that even though I grew up in that environment, I would not let that environment grow up in me. And so I chose, say choose. And so I chose to not live my life bound to what I was raised in. But that's a conscious and intentional decision to move outside of the influence of the environment. Are you with me? And so it's important to remember that we get to choose and shape and design what our environment will be. How do we shape and design the environment with which we will live in our relationships? One of the first ways that we do it is we demand love. Say demand love. Now get this. Put this in your notes. You in stream watching it, put this in your notes. Love cannot be added to you. The people that you are in relationship with, even though I said they have a responsibility to fill your relational tank, they do not add love to you. You with me? Love is never added to you. Love only comes from you. Love is a spiritual quality. So it's not something that you can find in a relationship with others. If you are seeking love in the form of your relationships, hoping that someone else can give you something, you have started from the wrong place. And if you start from the wrong place, if you have the wrong map, it doesn't matter how fast you run or how smart you are. If you are in Chicago and you have a map of New York, the likelihood that you will get to the wrong place is 100%. Are you with me? And so it's good to know, you want to know that the people you are in relationship do not add love to you. They do not add love to you. Love comes from you. Love is what you are. Are you with me? And so then, what is it we are doing here? In order to be healthy in relationships and to create a healthy environment in relationship, it's important that you love yourself. We read in our bulletin earlier this scripture from the book of Mark, and in this scripture, to pull it out a little bit and take a look at it, Jesus is having a debate with some Pharisees. And as they are debating certain tenets of religion and spirituality, one of the scribes comes to Jesus a little later on, and he says, so great teacher, what is the most important commandment? And Jesus said that you ought to love the Lord your God with all your mind, with all your heart, and with all your soul. Then he said, you are to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Dr. Johnson has a saying, he said, if you don't love yourself, your neighbor is in big trouble. But I don't want you to miss what Jesus is saying. See, there is the expectation that you are already loving yourself. It doesn't say love your neighbor if you love yourself. It says love your neighbor as you love yourself. So then in order to create an environment that is healthy, the first thing you have to do is be committed to loving yourself. I like my sister Lisa Nichols. She said, be madly in love with yourself. And here, let me just give it to you. Where you are right now, as perfect as you are, as beautiful as you are, as wholesome as you are, as full-figured as you are, as tall or short or young or old as you are, as educated or uneducated as you are, as hood and ghetto as you are, or as savvy as you are, right where you are, you don't need to change anything in order to love yourself. You are lovable just as you are. Right where you are. I want you to get this. Nothing about you has to change, Bev. You are perfect just as you are when it comes to whether or not you can love yourself. Now, you might have to work on yourself if you want to be more. But in terms of loving yourself, you are perfect, Chester, just as you are. You don't have to become anything else. Everything you need, you already have. You are right now more than enough to qualify for your love. The only question is, will you give it to yourself? Now, I find that this is a challenge for some of us. Sometimes we feel we can easily care for others. We can easily love others. But when it comes to loving ourselves, it feels a little selfish. So let me give you these three faces of self-love. The first is compassion. Put this in your notes, compassion. The first face of self-love is compassion. This means that you will empathize with yourself when you make mistakes and when you get it correct. You will give yourself the ability to miss it, to not get it right, and you will still be worthy of the love that you have in you. You will find yourself saying yes to someone who has no character, and the fact that they have no character will make you doubt yourself, and I'm saying you can love yourself even though you're a bad judge of character. Self-love. The second face of self-love is cooperation. Cooperation. You know, the stuff you do when other folk call you. They say, can you help me with this? And you can't get your pajamas off fast enough to go and help them. But when you say to yourself, I'm going to take myself to the spa today. I'm going to take myself to the movies today. I'm going to take myself to get flowers today. I'm going to take myself to get ice cream today. Nah, I guess I don't really need flowers today. It's almost Valentine's Day. Somebody else might get me flowers. Why do you expect someone else to do for you what you won't do for yourself? See, we have to recognize that we are always communicating expectation. We are always teaching people how to treat us. And if my yes to me is not valid, then your yes to me doesn't have to be either. If my no to me has no substance, then when you tell me no, or when I tell you no, it doesn't have to have any substance. You don't honor you, why should I? Are you with me? And so you have to not only be compassionate with yourself, but you have to cooperate with yourself. And then in order to experience self-love, you have to be kind to yourself. See, you're not being kind to yourself when you feel guilt about stuff you ought to do for you. I could ask many of you right here, right now, will you help me with this? And most of you will say yes in a heartbeat. But if you want to do the same thing for yourself, you would hesitate in doing it. Why? You shouldn't love me more than you love you. You shouldn't be kinder to me than you are to you. You owe yourself your own kindness. Self-love is one of the ways we communicate to the world, to the life, to God. Self-love is one of the ways we fill up our own relational bucket. Did you hear me say that you are in primary relationship with yourself? Did you hear me say that you are in primary relationship with yourself? So then there are certain things that you owe to you as a prerequisite to be in relationship with you. Are you with me? So in order to experience a healthy environment, you have to give yourself love. One of the other things that you want to do in order to be able to shape a healthy environment is you want to be able to share love. You want to be able to share love. Put that in your notes, share love. When I think about the power of shared love, it reminds me of the story of Jamie Ogg. Jamie Ogg was a premature newborn in Australia, and he was born with a twin sister at just 27 weeks gestation. And when Jamie was born, Jamie weighed only 2 pounds. Jamie actually didn't make it through the process of birth. As a matter of fact, Jamie was pronounced dead about 20 minutes after the doctors tried to resuscitate and revive him. And so once the doctors told Jamie's mom, Kate, that Jamie had made his transition, they handed Jamie to her so that she could spend her last time with him. And as Kate was holding her newborn son, as Kate was holding her dead son, what Kate began to do was share love. She began to talk to Jamie. She started telling him about his sister. She began to tell Jamie about the structure of their family. She talked to Jamie about his dad. As she was talking to Jamie, she started to feel her, she got milk. I'm not trying to be crude, it's not coming to me. Mammary gland. And Kate took the milk and put it on Jamie's lips. When she put the milk on Jamie's lips, Jamie began to suckle a little bit. After Jamie began to suckle a little bit, Kate started to rub him some more and caress him some more. And then she took a little more milk and put it on his lips. And Jamie started to react and respond in ways that began to start to make a miracle happen. Today, Jamie is about 18 years old. And the thing that brought Jamie back to life was the love that was shared from his mother, Kate. See, there are some experiences that we're working through that if we will just share love with them, we can experience a transformation of a dead situation into a live situation. Are you with me? So you've got to be willing to share love. You've got to be willing to love yourself. You've got to be willing to share love others in order to experience a healthy environment. Now, not only is love important in relationship, limits are also important in relationships. If you intend to establish a healthy environment, not only do you need love, you also need limits. Just a little bit after my daughter was born, my grandmother said to me, son, she said, all children need 2 things in order to become their best. She said they need an abundance of love and they need the right amount of limits. Then she said, if you don't apply the limits, they'll make you pay for it. It's a word from my grandmother. It says it this way in the scripture. It says, train up a child in the way they should go. And when they are older, they will not depart from it, right? And so it's important that in our relationships, not just with our children, but in the people that we are in relationship with, it's important that we establish boundaries. I agree with Irma Kurtz, who said, givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. I agree with Brené Brown, who said, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. Why is it important that we set limits in relationships? Because each of us is in relationships with 4 different kinds of people. I need 4 people. I need 4 people real quick. Crystal, let me have you sit there. Monique, let me have you sit there. Let me have you sit there. And you sit right here. Excuse me. Each of us is in relationship with 4 different kinds of people. You with me? Each of us has 4 different type of people, part of our family structure, part of our relational structure. The first kind of person that we are in relationship, and these aren't necessarily in order of importance, they're just in order of illustration. The first kind of person that we are in relationship with is the adder, people who add to us. People who add to us give us the ability to do more than we could do by ourselves. People who add to us help the sum of what we could accomplish become more. See, I like to think of people who add to us as as if you think about a train, water boils at 212 degrees, yes? And water boils at 212 degrees, but it becomes steam at 213 degrees, yes? Now, an adder will be the type of person who will add just that 1 degree to you where you can go from just being hot to being able to move a locomotive train. That's the adder. The next person that you are in relationship with is the subtractor. Now, the subtractor, you can tell you're in relationship with a subtractor because you feel less and less the more you are with them. The subtractor is the kind of person who will tell you that Susie Ann did it, but they'll also tell you all the reasons why you can't do it. So you can always know you're with a subtractor because subtractors have an innate ability to make you just kind of feel lower and lower when you are in relationship with them. So there is something about the subtractor that needs to feel like they are over you. See, a subtractor is always around when they need you, but they're never around when you need them. That's the subtractor. Now, the divider is the unhealthiest of them all. The divider leaves us feeling like we are a whole. As a matter of fact, the divider is the type of person who will say to you, when you say to them, listen, I'm turning over a new leaf, I ain't stopped drinking. The divider is the kind of person who says, I'm so happy for you. Why don't you walk to the liquor store with me? The divider is the kind of person who, when you say, you know what, I'm ready to turn over a new leaf, I'm going to give up my extra boyfriend. The divider is the kind of person who begins to recount for you all of the things that they do with their extra boyfriend. Are you with me? Then there is the multiplier. The multiplier is the one who helps us become exponentially great. The multiplier helps us do far more than we could do if we were trying to do it on our own. So let me say it to you this way. If in your business, with your business acumen and what you're able to do, if right now, right here, right now, you are a level 5, if you talk to a multiplier and they just add 2 to you, you're what? No. They're not, yeah, come on. So the multiplier helps you get exponentially better. So they don't just add to you, they help you multiply your ability, they help you multiply your capacity. Most of us are here because the founder of this ministry was a multiplier. Right? That's it. Y'all can go. No, y'all stay right there. It's good. Y'all can stay right there. So what you have to do in order to get a healthy environment is you have to be able to be self-aware. You have to be self-reflective, and you must know who it is you're in relationship with. You cannot make the mistake of thinking that a subtractor is an adder. You don't want to make the mistake of being in a relationship with a divider, hoping that the divider can make you better. Listen, and you heard me say last week, I'm not shading these people. I'm not shading the subtractor or the divider. I'm simply telling you they're out there. And here is what I will also want to tell you about particularly the subtractor and the divider. It's not your responsibility to fix them. Are you with me? All right. So now, we know that we need love. We know that we need limits. What else do we need in order to create a healthy environment? In order to create a healthy environment, one of the things that we have to be able to do is look forward. Somebody say, look forward. When I'm talking about looking forward, I'm talking about us having conscious and intentional conversation about where it is we intend to go. Are you with me? Conscious and intentional about where it is we intend to go. So now, as you are looking to establish healthy environments in your relationships, there are some things that you might have to go back and do now. One of the things I recommend you go back and do is ask for what you want rather than what you think you can get. Regardless of the nature of the relationship, Ask for what you want rather than what you think you can get. See, sometimes you're just in relationship and people assume that what they want to give ought to be good enough for you. And I'm saying that if you love yourself and if you recognize the limit that you didn't put but that someone else might have put, and if the relationship is important to you, if it's necessary to you, if it's vital to you, then it's important that you be healthy in that relationship. Ask for what you want and what you need, not just what you think you can get. Because what you will find is that if they want to be in relationship with you, they'll grow to give you what you need. Are you with me? Second thing I need you to do in order to look forward is expect more and communicate your expectations. Expect more and communicate your expectations. Now, can I keep it 1,000 with you? If you've been in a relationship a certain way already, there are some uncommunicated ground rules that are in place. Expectations have already been set. And if you are needing more, you have to communicate that. Because in your communication, know that you are changing the rules of engagement. And if you're going to change the rules of engagement or you're going to change the rules of the game, changing the rules of the game requires a conversation up front. Are you with me? So don't just move into the relationship while y'all at lunch. I've decided that having lunch where you want to have lunch at every time is not what I want to do. That's not the move. The move is to have clear, concise communication because you've changed. They have not. And if the relationship is important enough to you, it requires that you communicate the new you to the old rules. Are you with me? So you got to be clear about your expectations and you got to be willing to have that conversation on the front end. The last thing I want to encourage you to do in this relationship is don't complain. Don't complain. Here's why I say don't complain. Because oftentimes when we complain, we don't complain to the person who can help us fix it. So if you have issues with the people you are in relationship with, don't talk to somebody who can't fix it. Talk to them. Are you with me? Communicate with them so that you don't just have to complain about it and it be the same. You can get resolved what you need to get resolved. Are you with me? I'm going to close with this. When I was, now let me say it this way. I've been fortunate enough to lead this church for nearly 8 years. Right? And I'm proud of the impact we've been able to make. I'm proud of the way we've been able to move the Reverend Doctor's legacy forward. I'm proud of the work we do in helping people become better. But here is what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of those times when I was working in the marketplace. And Kevin, I would every now and again, whether I was working at a school or working at the John Hancock or working at the Sears Tower, every now and again on certain jobs, whether I was running a job or a mechanic on the job, whatever I was doing, every now and again I'd have to work in a space, and that space had either a conference table or a lectern. Sometimes it didn't have a conference table or a lectern. Sometimes it only had a closet. And every now and again, I would move into that space. If there were a lectern, Renee, I would just get behind the lectern and I would start to teach and preach. If there were a conference table, I would sit at the head of the conference table because I was seeing myself beyond where I was. I was setting the expectation for what I wanted to be. If I was working in a closet, closet didn't have to be any bigger than this, but I would find myself, Reverend Bird, every now and again teaching some of my hottest stuff to the pipes and the wires that were in the closet. Why? Because in my mind, I wasn't staying where I was always looking forward. And here is what I want you to know. When you look forward and you project forward and you send forward and you use the creative capacity to reshape what it is into what you want, what you'll find is that your relationships have to follow the form of your consciousness. So where you've been is not an indication of where you're going, and where you're going is an indication of what you want right now. So set the right expectation, give yourself in love, set the right limits, and look forward, because you got better on your way. God bless you.